Oh, they tried to defend Earth until humans laughed. You have no idea who you're facing. That's part one. The visitors. The stars were quiet that night when the first ships appeared. Captain Minho Park stood at the observation window of the Lunar Defense Outpost and watched the sky change. One moment, there was nothing but darkness and distant lights. The next moment, 2,000 alien warships filled the space above Earth like a wall of metal and fire. "Sir, are you seeing this?" Lieutenant Unibayak asked from her station. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were wide. Minho nodded slowly. He took a sip of his coffee and continued watching. The ships were beautiful in a strange way. They were long and silver, with curves that reminded him of ocean waves. Blue lights pulsed along their sides like heartbeats. "The Valoran Alliance," Minho said quietly. "They finally found us." Yuna checked her screens. 2,347 ships, sir. Should I contact Earth Command? Should I activate the defense systems? Minho smiled. It was a small smile, the kind a person makes when they know something funny that nobody else understands yet. "Contact Earth Command. Yes, but do not activate anything. Just watch." On the bridge of the largest Valoran ship, Admiral Torek looked down at the blue planet below him. He had traveled across the galaxy for 300 years, fighting wars and protecting worlds. He had seen species rise and fall. He had watched civilizations burn. And now he had come to save another primitive world from destruction. "Report," Torek commanded. His voice was deep and tired. His second officer, a young Valoran named Sevik, pulled up the data on his screen. "Admiral, this planet is called Earth by its inhabitants. They call themselves humans. According to our surveys, they developed space travel only 200 years ago. They have basic weapons, simple ships, and no knowledge of the greater galaxy." Torek sighed. Another young species. Another group of children who did not understand the darkness that was coming for them. "And the Crick swarm?" 7 days away, Admiral. The swarm will reach this system in 7 days. 7 days. Torek closed his eyes. He remembered the last world he had tried to save from the Cricks. He remembered the screaming and the fire and the way the sky had turned black with enemy ships. He remembered failing. He would not fail again. "Open a communication channel to the planet," Torek ordered. "I will speak to their leaders." On Earth, the message arrived in the middle of a Tuesday afternoon. World leaders gathered quickly in the United Nations Space Command building in Seoul. They sat in a large room with screens covering every wall, and they watched as the alien admiral appeared before them. Torek looked at the humans with a mixture of pity and respect. They seemed so small, so fragile. Their bodies were soft and their lives were short. How could such creatures hope to survive what was coming? "People of Earth," Torek began, speaking slowly so they could understand. "I am Admiral Torek of the Valoran Alliance. We have come from across the stars to deliver a warning. A great danger approaches your world. The Crick swarm is coming." He paused, expecting fear. He expected panic. Instead, the humans simply watched him with calm faces. Torek continued. "The Cricks are a hive mind species. They consume everything in their path. Planets, ships, entire civilizations. They cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be stopped by primitive weapons. In 7 days they will reach your system, and they will destroy everything you have built." Fleet Admiral Sujin Cho leaned forward in her chair. She was a woman in her 60s with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had led the human fleet for 20 years, though the Valorans did not know this. To them, she was just another primitive leader. "Admiral Torek," Sujin said politely, "we thank you for traveling so far to warn us. This is very kind of you." Torek nodded. At least they understood gratitude. "We have come not only to warn you, but to help you. The Valoran Alliance will defend your world. Our fleet will fight the Cricks while you evacuate your people." "Evacuate?" Sujin asked. Yes, we can save perhaps 10,000 of your species. We will take the most intelligent, the most skilled, the most valuable. They will be relocated to a safe world where they can rebuild your civilization. The room was silent. The human leaders looked at each other. Some of them smiled. Others covered their mouths to hide their laughter. Sujin kept her face serious. Admiral, we appreciate your offer. Truly we do. But I am afraid we must decline. Earth does not need evacuation. We will remain here. Torek stared at her. He could not believe what he was hearing. You do not understand. The Crick swarm contains millions of ships. Millions. Your weapons cannot hurt them. Your defenses cannot stop them. If you stay, you will die. We understand the situation, Sujin said calmly, but our answer remains the same. Thank you for your concern, Admiral. We will handle this ourselves. The communication ended. Torek stood in silence on his bridge, his mind struggling to process what had just happened. These creatures had just been offered salvation, and they had refused. They were going to stay and die on their little blue world because they were too proud to accept help. Admiral, Sevik asked carefully, what should we do? Torek turned away from the screen. His shoulders felt heavy. We stay. We protect them anyway. They do not understand what they are facing, but we do. The Valoran Alliance does not abandon innocent worlds to the swarm, even when those worlds are too foolish to save themselves. Back on the lunar outpost, Minho finished his coffee and set down the cup. He had watched the entire conversation on his screen. Sir, Yuna said, the Valorans are moving into defensive positions around Earth. They really think they need to protect us. Let them, Minho replied. It would be rude to stop them. Yuna hesitated. Sir, should I be worried? The Crick swarm sounds dangerous. Minho laughed. It was a real laugh, full and warm. Worried? No, Lieutenant. I am not worried at all. I actually feel a little sorry for the Cricks. Yuna frowned. Sorry for them? Why? Minho turned back to the window and looked at the Valoran fleet floating in space. Those brave aliens had no idea what was about to happen. They had come to save a primitive world, and they were about to discover that everything they believed was wrong. Because, Minho said softly, they have no idea who they are facing. Outside, the stars continued to shine, quiet and patient. Somewhere in the darkness, the Crick swarm was coming, and somewhere deep inside Earth and hidden among the moons and asteroids, humanity waited with a smile. The game was just beginning. They tried to defend Earth until humans laughed. You have no idea who you're facing. Part 2. The Protectors. 3 days had passed since the Valoran fleet arrived. Admiral Torek had positioned his ships in a wide circle around Earth, creating a shield of metal and weapons between the planet and the coming darkness. Every hour, his officers sent reports about the approaching swarm. Every hour, the news grew worse. 12 million ships confirmed, Sevik reported from his station. The swarm is larger than anything we have faced before. Torek stood with his hands behind his back, staring at the tactical display. 12 million. His fleet had 2,000 ships. The numbers were impossible. But the Valoran Alliance had never abandoned a world to the Cricks, and they would not start now. Prepare all weapons, Torek ordered. Tell the crews to rest while they can. When the swarm arrives, there will be no sleep. While the Valorans prepared for death, the humans of Earth continued their normal lives. Children went to school, workers went to their jobs, families ate dinner together and watched the news. The only difference was the strange lights in the sky where the alien fleet waited. In the United Nations Space Command building in Seoul, Fleet Admiral Sujin Cho sat in her office drinking tea. She had been in this office for 20 years. Commanding a fleet that the galaxy did not know existed. On her desk was a small photograph of her grandmother. who had commanded the same fleet 50 years before her. A knock came at the door. "Enter," Sujin said. Taiho Kong walked in. He was a thin man with glasses and messy hair. His job title was Tactical Analyst, but in truth, he was one of the most brilliant military minds humanity had ever produced. He carried a tablet under his arm. "Admiral, Protocol Echo is ready," Taiho said. "All units are in position. We can activate at any time." Sujin nodded slowly. "And our friends above? What are they doing?" "The Valorans have scanned our planet several times. They found our public military database and believe we have only basic weapons. They think our strongest ship is the passenger shuttle that travels between Earth and Mars." Sujin smiled. "Good. Let them believe it." On the other side of the building, Engineer Hana Lim was running final checks on the communication systems. Her job was to make sure that when Protocol Echo activated, every human ship in the solar system would receive the order at the exact same moment. There could be no delays, no mistakes. Her assistant, a young man named Jiho Moon, looked up from his screen. "Ma'am, I have a question." "Ask it," Hana said without looking up. "Why do we hide? We have the strongest fleet in the galaxy. We could announce ourselves to everyone. We could lead the other species instead of pretending to be weak." Hana stopped working. She turned to look at Jiho with serious eyes. "Do you know what happens when a species announces that they are the strongest? Other species become afraid. They form alliances against the strong one. They attack before they can be attacked. Wars begin. Billions die." She shook her head. "Humanity learned this lesson long ago. True strength does not need to be shown. It only needs to exist." Jiho thought about this. "So we hide to protect others from fearing us?" "We hide to protect everyone, including ourselves. Fear is the most dangerous weapon in the universe, Jiho, more dangerous than any ship or bomb." Above Earth, the Valorans continued their preparations. Admiral Torek had decided to learn more about the species he was protecting. He ordered his officers to study human history, human culture, human achievements. What he found confused him. "They fight each other constantly," Sevik reported. "Their history is filled with wars. They have killed millions of their own kind." Torek frowned. "A violent species. Primitive and violent. Perhaps it is good that we are here. Perhaps they need guidance." But other reports told a different story. The humans had also created beautiful art and music. They had built great cities and explored their small corner of space with simple ships and brave hearts. They loved their families. They cared for their children. They dreamed of stars they could not reach. Torek felt his heart soften. These creatures were flawed, yes, but they were also full of hope. He could not let the Cricks take that away from them. "Admiral," Sevik said suddenly, "one of our scouts has attempted to access the human military network." Torek turned sharply. "I did not authorize that. What did he find?" Sevik looked at his screen and almost laughed. "Nothing impressive, Admiral. Their strongest weapons are nuclear bombs, which they invented 200 years ago. Their military ships are small transports with basic laser systems. They have no planetary shields, no fold space engines, no weapons that could hurt the Cricks." "Then they truly are defenseless," Torek said sadly. What Sevik did not know was that the scout had accessed a fake database. The humans had built it specifically for moments like this. It contained true historical information mixed with carefully designed lies. Any species that scanned Earth would find exactly what they expected to find, a young, weak civilization that posed no threat to anyone. The real military network was hidden behind layers of protection that the Valorans could not even see. The real fleet was scattered across the solar system, invisible and waiting. Commander Yunbi Song stood on the bridge of the flagship Teguk, the largest warship humanity had ever built. The ship was hidden inside an asteroid near Jupiter, its engines cold, its weapons sleeping. Around her, 300 crew members waited at their stations. Commander, her communications officer reported, Protocol Echo is on standby. We are ready. Yunbi nodded. She was a woman of 50 with calm eyes and steady hands. She had trained for this moment her entire life. Her mother had trained for it. Her grandmother had trained for it. For 800 years, humanity had prepared for the day when they would have to reveal themselves. She hoped that day would not be today. She hoped the Valorans could somehow stop the swarm by themselves. But she knew the truth. The Krix could not be stopped by 2,000 ships. They could not be stopped by 20,000 ships. Only humanity had the power to end them. On Earth, Admiral Sujin Cho received a message from Captain Minho Park at the lunar outpost. Admiral, the swarm will arrive in 4 days. The Valorans are brave, but they will not survive. Sujin set down her tea. I know. We will wait until the last moment. We will give them every chance to win on their own. And if they cannot win? Sujin looked out her window at the sky. Somewhere up there, thousands of aliens were preparing to die for a planet they had never seen before. They did not know that the people they were protecting could destroy the swarm in minutes. They did not know that humanity was older than their entire civilization. If they cannot win, Sujin said quietly, then we will show them who we really are. 4 days remained. The Krix swarm continued its approach. The Valorans continued their preparations, and humanity continued its wait, patient and silent, like a giant pretending to be small. The protectors had come to save Earth. They did not know that Earth had been saving the galaxy for longer than their species had existed. Soon they would learn. They tried to defend Earth until humans laughed. You have no idea who you're facing. Part 3. The Swarm Arrives. The edge of the solar system was a cold and empty place. No light reached there. No warmth touched the frozen rocks that floated in the darkness. For millions of years, nothing had disturbed the silence of that distant region. Then space itself began to tear open. The Fold Space portal was massive, larger than any moon, larger than any planet. It burned with purple fire and crackled with energy that could be felt across the entire system. And through that portal came death. The Krix swarm poured through like water breaking through a dam. Ships beyond counting, each one alive in its horrible way. They were not made of metal. They were made of bone and flesh and hunger. They had no pilots because they were their own pilots. They had no weapons because they were their own weapons. 12 million ships, 12 million hungry mouths, 12 million nightmares given form. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Torek watched the sensors go dark with enemy contacts. His hands did not shake. His voice did not break. He had known this moment would come. He had prepared his entire life for it. All ships, Torek said calmly. This is Admiral Torek. The enemy has arrived. We will hold the line. We will protect this world. We will fight until our last breath. Across the Valoran fleet, 2,000 crews prepared to die. They were afraid, but they were also proud. They were the shield of the galaxy. They were the protectors of the innocent. On the lunar outpost, Captain Minho Park watched the portal open. Lieutenant Yuna Bayek stood beside him, her face pale but steady. 12 million confirmed, Yuna whispered. The Valorans have no chance. Minho said nothing. He simply watched. On Earth, people looked up at the sky. They could not see the swarm yet, but they could feel something wrong in the air. Children asked their parents what was happening. Parents told them everything would be fine. Nobody panicked. Nobody screamed. Because humanity knew something the Valorans did not. They knew the truth. The Krix swarm moved like a single creature. 12 million ships acting as one mind, one hunger, one purpose. They sensed the Valoran fleet waiting ahead. They sensed the soft blue planet beyond. They wanted to consume it all. The first wave hit the Valoran line like a hammer hitting glass. Torek's ships opened fire with everything they had. Plasma cannons turned Crick's ships into burning clouds of flesh. Missiles exploded against living hulls. Lasers cut through the darkness like knives. For one beautiful moment, it seemed like the Valorans might win. Then the second wave arrived, and the third, and the fourth. The Cricks did not care about losses. They did not know fear. They only knew hunger. For every ship the Valorans destroyed, 10 more took its place. For every missile they fired, 100 Cricks ships returned the attack. 30 minutes into the battle, half of the Valoran fleet was gone. 1,000 ships destroyed. Tens of thousands of lives ended, and still the swarm kept coming. "Admiral," Sevik gasped, blood running down his face from a wound on his head. "We cannot hold them. There are too many." Torek's ship shook as another attack hit its shields. Alarms screamed from every direction. Fires burned in the lower decks. The bridge was filled with smoke and the smell of death. "We hold," Torek said. "We do not retreat. We do not surrender." On Earth, Admiral Sujin Cho watched the battle from her command center. Around her, dozens of officers monitored every ship, every weapon, every life being lost in space above them. "The Valorans are being destroyed," Teho Kang reported. "At this rate, they will be gone in 20 minutes. Sujin's face was like stone. "How many have they lost?" 1,200 ships, 60,000 lives. 60,000. 60,000 aliens who had come to save a planet they did not know. 60,000 lives ended because they believed Earth could not protect itself. Sujin closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, her decision was made. "Activate Protocol Echo." The words traveled across the solar system at the speed of light. They reached the lunar outpost where Minho was watching. They reached the asteroid where Commander Yunbi Song waited. They reached hidden bases on Mars and Europa and Titan. They reached ships buried under ice and ships floating in the darkness and ships that had waited for centuries. On the bridge of the Taeguk, Commander Yunbi Song heard the order. She took a deep breath and looked at her crew. "You all know what this means," she said. "After today, the galaxy will know who we are. There will be no more hiding, no more pretending. Are you ready?" 300 voices answered as one. "Yes, Commander." Yunbi smiled. "Then let us introduce ourselves." The Valoran flagship was dying. Half its systems were offline. Its shields were failing. Admiral Torek sat in his command chair, watching the Cricks close in for the kill. He had failed. He had failed to save another world. "It was an honor serving with you all," Torek said to his remaining crew. "Tell our families we died protecting the innocent." Then every communication channel in the system activated at once. A calm female voice spoke in perfect Valoran, in perfect Cricks, in every language known to the galaxy. "This is Fleet Admiral Sujin Cho of the United Earth Defense Force. Protocol Echo is now active. All Allied vessels, please stand down and cease fire. We will take it from here." Torek frowned in confusion. Stand down? The humans wanted the Valorans to stop fighting? Were they insane? "Admiral," Sevik said, his voice strange. "Something is happening. The sensors are detecting—" "I do not understand. This cannot be right." Torek looked at his screen. His blood turned to ice. From behind Earth's moon, ships were appearing. From within the asteroid belt, ships were appearing. From beneath the ice of Europa, from the storms of Jupiter, from every dark corner of the solar system, ships were appearing. Not hundreds, not thousands, millions. Human ships, human weapons, human power beyond anything Torek had ever imagined. "What is this?" Torek whispered. "What are they?" On the Taeguk, Commander Yunbi Song activated her weapons. Around her, 3 million human warships did the same. They moved in perfect coordination, flowing through space like a single creature. "Admiral Torek," Yunbi said over the communication channel. Please move your fleet behind our line. You have fought bravely. Let us finish this. Torek could not speak. He could only watch as the human fleet advanced toward the Crick swarm, the primitives, the children, the weak species that needed protection. They had been lying. They had been lying all along. And now the Cricks were about to learn what humanity really was. They tried to defend Earth until humans laughed. You have no idea who you're facing. Part 4. The Laughing Gods. The Crick swarm had consumed 1,000 worlds. They had destroyed civilizations older than the stars themselves. They had never known defeat. They had never known fear. Until now. The human fleet moved through space like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. 3 million ships, each one larger than anything the Valorans had built, each one carrying weapons that should not exist. They did not fly in lines or formations. They flowed like water, like a river of steel and fire that surrounded the swarm from every direction. Admiral Sujin Cho stood in her command center on Earth, watching the battle through 1,000 screens. Her voice was calm when she spoke. Admiral Torek, I suggest you move your remaining ships away from the combat zone. What happens next may be difficult to watch. On his damaged bridge, Torek could not respond. His eyes were fixed on the human fleet. Ships that bent light around their hulls. Ships that moved faster than his sensors could track. Ships that made his own fleet look like toys. How? Was all he could whisper. The Crick swarm did not hesitate. They turned their millions toward the new enemy and attacked with all their hunger. In the past, this had always worked. In the past, every species had fallen before their numbers. The humans did not fall. The first wave of Crick's ships reached the human line and simply stopped existing. No explosions, no debris, just emptiness where ships had been a moment before. The human weapons were beyond anything Torek understood. They did not shoot projectiles or energy beams. They seemed to simply erase matter itself. Matter cancellation technology, Sevik said in a voice filled with disbelief. They can unmake atoms. This technology should not exist for another 1,000,000 years. The second wave of Cricks died the same way. Then the third, then the fourth. The swarm threw everything at the human fleet, and everything disappeared like shadows in sunlight. On the bridge of a human cruiser, Captain Do-hyun Yu smiled as he gave orders. He was a young man with bright eyes and a quick laugh. This was his first real battle, though he had trained for it his entire life. Sector 7, clean sweep, Do-hyun ordered. Sector 8, pincer formation. Remember, no Valoran ships are to be touched. They are our guests. Around him, his crew moved with perfect efficiency. They had practiced this moment in simulations 1,000,000 times. Now it was real, and they were proud to finally show what humanity could do. The Cricks tried to retreat. For the first time in their existence as a species, they understood that they were not the predator. They were the prey. They turned their ships and ran toward the fold space portal that had brought them here. They did not reach it. Human ships appeared at the portal before the Cricks could escape. They blocked every exit, closed every path, sealed the swarm inside the solar system like fish in a bowl. No retreat, Admiral Sujin said calmly. This ends here. And it did. 11 minutes. That was how long it took for 3 million human ships to destroy 12 million Cricks. 11 minutes to end a threat that had terrorized the galaxy for 10,000 years. 11 minutes to change everything. When it was over, space was empty. No Cricks remained. No debris floated where they had been. The human weapons had erased them so completely that it was as if they had never existed at all. On the Valoran flagship, Admiral Torek finally found his voice. His hands were shaking. His mind could not process what he had witnessed. "This is impossible," he said. "No species has this power. No species should have this power. A communication screen flickered to life on his bridge. Captain Do-hyun Yu appeared, smiling warmly like he had just finished a friendly game instead of the greatest battle in galactic history. Admiral Torek, are you all right over there? Sorry about the wait. We wanted to make sure the swarm committed fully before we closed the trap. It works better that way. Torek stared at the young human. How long? How long have you been able to do this? Do-hyun laughed. It was a genuine laugh, full of warmth and humor. Admiral, we have been doing this for about 800 years. Who do you think stopped the Krix from reaching your sector of the galaxy? Who do you think has been protecting all the young species from the darkness? 800 years. The Valoran Alliance was only 500 years old. Humanity had been protecting them before they even existed as a civilization. You knew, Torek said slowly. You knew we were coming. You knew the Krix were coming. You knew everything. We did, Do-hyun admitted. We have been watching the galaxy for a very long time, Admiral. We see everything. We know everything. And we protect everyone, even when they do not know they need protection. Torek felt something strange in his chest. It took him a moment to recognize it. Shame. He had come to Earth to save the humans. He had looked down on them as primitives who needed guidance. He had offered to take their most valuable specimens to safety like they were animals in a zoo. And all along, they had been gods pretending to be insects. Why? Torek asked. Why hide? Why pretend to be weak? You could rule the entire galaxy. No one could stop you. Do-hyun's smile faded. His eyes became serious. That question, Admiral, is exactly why we hide. Every species that gains power asks that same question. How can we use our strength to rule? How can we make others serve us? Humanity asked that question once, long ago. We did not like the answer we found. What answer? That ruling through strength is not ruling at all. It is just fear with a fancy name. True strength is not about what you can take. It is about what you can give. It is about what you can protect. On Earth, Admiral Sujin Cho watched the conversation with tired eyes. Around her, officers were celebrating quietly. The Krix swarm was gone forever. The galaxy was safe, but Sujin did not celebrate. She knew what came next. After 800 years of hiding, humanity would have to face the galaxy openly. There would be questions, there would be fear, there would be species who saw human power and wanted to destroy them before they became a threat. The hiding was over. The real challenge was just beginning. On the lunar outpost, Captain Minho Park poured 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Lieutenant Yuna Bayek. Well, Yuna said, I guess everyone knows about us now. They do, Minho agreed. The galaxy will never be the same. Yuna sipped her coffee. Do you think they will accept us? Do you think they will understand why we hid? Minho looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, thousands of species were about to learn that the quiet little planet called Earth was actually the most powerful force in existence. Some would be grateful. Some would be afraid. Some would be angry. Some will understand, Minho said. Some will not. But that is not what matters. What matters, sir? Minho smiled. What matters is that we keep protecting them anyway. That is what humanity does. That is who we are. Outside, the human fleet began to disperse back to their hidden places. The show was over. The secret was out, and somewhere in the galaxy, other species were looking up at their skies, wondering if the universe was safer or more dangerous than they had believed. The answer was both. They tried to defend Earth, until humans laughed, you have no idea who you're facing. Part 5. The Truth. 1 week had passed since the battle, 1 week since humanity revealed its true face to the galaxy, 1 week since everything changed. Admiral Torek walked through the streets of Seoul, his eyes wide with wonder. Humans moved around him, going about their daily lives as if nothing had happened. Children laughed and played in parks. Workers hurried to their offices. Old people sat on benches, feeding birds and enjoying the sunshine. These were the same species that had destroyed 12 million Krix ships in 11 minutes. "You seem troubled, Admiral," said Ambassador Nari Huang, walking beside him. She was a small woman with kind eyes and silver hair. She had been assigned to help Torek understand humanity during his visit. "I am trying to understand," Torek admitted. "Your people have enough power to conquer every civilization in the galaxy. Yet you live like this. Simple lives, peaceful lives. Why?" Nari smiled and guided him toward a small tea shop. They sat at a table by the window, and she ordered 2 cups of traditional Korean tea. "Let me tell you a story," Nari said. 800 years ago, humanity discovered that we were not alone in the universe. We found the ruins of ancient civilizations that had destroyed themselves with their own power. We found evidence of species that had conquered others, only to fall to the same fate centuries later. Torek listened carefully. "We also found the Krix," Nari continued. "Back then, they were already spreading across the galaxy, consuming young civilizations before they could grow. We had a choice to make. We could announce ourselves to the galaxy and take control. We could become emperors and force everyone to follow our rules. Or we could choose a different path." "The path of hiding," Torek said. "The path of protection," Nari corrected gently. "We decided that the galaxy did not need another conqueror. It needed a guardian. Someone who would protect the young species without controlling them. Someone who would stop the darkness without demanding worship in return." Their tea arrived. Torek wrapped his hands around the warm cup, but did not drink. "For 800 years. We have watched over the galaxy in secret. When the Krix threatened a sector, we stopped them before anyone knew they were coming. When ancient evils woke from their sleep, we put them back to rest. When young civilizations made discoveries that could destroy them, we gently guided them towards safer paths. The Valoran Alliance," Torek said slowly, understanding dawning in his eyes. 50 years ago, we discovered fold space travel. Our scientists thought they had invented it themselves." Nari's smile was sad and kind at the same time. "They did invent it, but they had help. Small hints in the right direction. Problems solved that would have taken you centuries to solve alone. We wanted you to grow, Admiral. We wanted all the young species to grow, but we also wanted you to survive the growing." Torek set down his cup. His hands were trembling. "Why tell me this now? Why reveal everything?" "Because the time for hiding is over," Nari said. "The Krix swarm was the last great threat to the galaxy. With them gone, we can finally step out of the shadows. We can finally meet our neighbors as equals." "Equals?" Torek almost laughed. "Ambassador, you could destroy us all with a thought. We are not equals." Nari reached across the table and took his hand. Her grip was gentle but warm. "Power does not make you superior, Admiral. How you use that power is what defines you. The Valoran Alliance came to Earth to protect a species you believed was weak. You were willing to die for strangers. You were willing to sacrifice everything for people you had never met. That is true strength. That is what makes us equals." They sat in silence for a long moment. Outside, life continued. Humans walked past the window, unaware of the historic conversation happening just a few feet away. "What happens now?" Torek asked finally. "Now we build something new. A true partnership between humanity and the other species of the galaxy. Not an empire, not a hierarchy, a family of civilizations, working together to protect each other and grow together." Torek nodded slowly. He thought about his crew, his fleet, his homeworld. He thought about all the years the Valoran Alliance had spent fighting alone, believing they were the only shield between civilization and chaos. They had never been alone. They had always been protected. That evening, Torek stood before the gathered leaders of the Valoran Alliance via holographic communication. He told them everything he had learned. He told them about humanity's true power. He told them about the 800 years of secret protection. He told them about the new future that was possible. Some were afraid. Some were angry. Some demanded that the Alliance prepare for war against this unknown threat. But most simply felt what Torek felt: gratitude, wonder, hope. The treaty was signed 3 days later. The Valoran Alliance and the United Earth Defense Force would work together as partners. Not protector and protected, not ruler and subject. Partners. It was the first of many treaties. Over the following months, other species learned the truth about humanity. Some accepted it quickly, others took longer. But slowly the galaxy began to change. Fear gave way to curiosity. Suspicion gave way to trust. On the lunar outpost, Captain Minho Park watched the stars as he had done 1,000 times before. Lieutenant Yuna Bayek stood beside him, a cup of coffee in her hands. "Sir, do you think this will work?" she asked. "The partnership with the other species?" "I do not know," Minho admitted. "Humanity has never done this before. We have always protected from the shadows. Now we have to protect in the light. It will be harder." "Why harder?" "Because in the light, people can see your mistakes. They can see your flaws. They can see that you are not perfect, just powerful." Minho smiled. "But I think that is a good thing. The galaxy should know that humans are not gods. We make mistakes. We have fears. We struggle with the same questions as everyone else." Yuna thought about this. "Then what makes us different?" Minho turned to look at her. His eyes were tired but warm. "What makes us different is that we try anyway. We protect even when we are scared. We help even when it costs us. We love even when love is hard. That is what humanity is, Yuna. Not our ships, not our weapons, not our power, just trying, every day, to be a little bit better than we were yesterday." Yuna smiled. "That sounds exhausting, sir." Minho laughed. "It is, but it is also worth it." Outside, the stars continued to shine. Somewhere in the galaxy, young species were taking their first steps into space. Somewhere, ancient mysteries waited to be discovered. Somewhere, new challenges were forming that would test humanity and its new partners. But for now, in this moment, there was peace. On Earth, Ambassador Nari Huang walked through a garden in Seoul. Admiral Torek walked beside her. Still learning, still growing, still trying to understand the strange species that had turned his entire understanding of the universe upside down. "Ambassador," Torek said, "I have one more question." "Ask it." "You have protected the galaxy for 800 years without recognition, without gratitude, without anyone knowing your sacrifice. Was it worth it?" Nari stopped walking. She looked up at the sky, where stars were just beginning to appear in the evening darkness. "Admiral, do you know what the most powerful force in the universe is?" Torek considered the question. "I would have said your weapons, but now I am not sure." Nari smiled. "The most powerful force in the universe is a choice. The choice to help when you could ignore. The choice to protect when you could conquer. The choice to love when you could hate. Every day, every moment, we make these choices, and those choices are what shape the future." She looked at Torek with eyes that held centuries of wisdom. "Yes, Admiral. It was worth it. Every day, every sacrifice, every secret. It was all worth it. Because somewhere out there, a child on a world we have never visited is looking up at the stars tonight, dreaming of the future. And because of what we did, because of the choices we made, that child will have a future to dream about." Torek felt tears in his eyes. He did not try to hide them. "Then I understand," he said. "I finally understand who you are." Nari took his arm, and they continued walking through the garden. Welcome to the family, Admiral. We have a lot of work to do. And in the darkness above them, the stars shone on, watched over by an ancient guardian who had finally come home.